What's going on, everyone? It's the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with another fantasy football video. Today we are going to be talking about wide receivers that can help you win your league, these potential league winners who can help you the second half of the season to absolutely dominate your league mates come playoff time, because that's ultimately what you want. We are focused on playoffs, or at least not losing in the loser's bracket, so you don't have to do some crazy loser punishment. But before we get into it, if you guys could, go down, give this video a like. I am answering every single fantasy football comment, so any questions you guys have, I would love to help you all out. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on so you do not miss another video. With that, guys, let's hop right into it with our first wide receiver. I think our first wide receiver is fairly obvious at this point. I mean, this is the breakout of all breakouts. Somebody I have owned. He's my most owned player on Underdog Fantasy by far. I own him in 42% of all leagues. And my next most owned player is in 30%. So I really like this guy. It was a very, very disappointing start to the season. Constantly injured. Not the wide receiver one in this offense, but now he takes over and he is clearly the wide receiver one. At least wide receiver 1B to Allen Lazard. Of course, I am talking about Christian Watson. And Christian Watson in the last two games has looked absolutely incredible. 5 total touchdowns first and foremost. I mean, how can it get much better than that? Yes, sure, Joe Mixon had 5 touchdowns in one game. But Joe Mixon's another animal. Joe Mixon's another beast. Christian Watson, though, is a rookie playing with Aaron Rodgers, a top 5 quarterback of all time. Has the talent. He was a second-round draft pick this year with legit 4.3 track speed. And they have an elite run game and Allen Lazard technically as their wide receiver one to be able to draw away coverage from him. I mean, when you have one of the best old lines in the entire league, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon there, they're going to be dragging away some defensive pressure. So Christian Watson will be getting the ball a fair amount. I mean, we saw in the last 2 games, 8 targets and 6 targets. Yes, he did only convert those into 4 receptions apiece, but 107 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. This guy is a touchdown machine. He is built like it at 6'5". When you watch this guy play, you see he's an absolute touchdown machine. Go up and get it. 50-50 ball type of monster, which are the receivers that Aaron Rodgers loves. He loves having trust in his receivers, and it's clear at this point that he's at least starting to trust Christian Watson. And, well, yes, I think he will still have some dud games. Absolutely, he is a rookie. At the same time, if you're going to be having great performances where you're going to be having multiple touchdown games, those are league-winning type of weeks that you need in your fantasy lineup today. That boom type of player you need in your lineup. Furthermore, for the playoffs in Week 16 and 17, he plays Miami, which is going to be an absolute shootout. Bad defense, great offense. And then Minnesota, who will most likely be another shootout. We saw what they did to the Bills. So I'm assuming Christian Watson is going to be really, really heavily utilized. They're probably going to be playing from behind in these games, and Christian Watson is just going to have to be utilized. I think Christian Watson is easily the number 1 most valuable breakout potential for 2022. And, I mean, I did think that before the 5 touchdowns in 2 games, but now that he has these 5 touchdowns and Romeo Doubs is out, I think it's really, really hard to ignore the potential of Christian Watson. It's going to be hard to trade for him, but I think he's going to be an absolute breakout this 2022 season. The next guy I want to talk about is Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones is another young type of wide receiver. Both these guys are 23 years old, but Donovan Peoples-Jones has been in the league a tiny bit longer. I mean, this one is probably fairly obvious. We are in Week 12. In Week 13, Deshaun Watson comes back, and once Deshaun Watson comes back, Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to go from one of the worst quarterbacks, arguably the worst quarterback in the entire NFL, to potentially a top 5 quarterback. And even with the worst quarterback in the entire NFL, in 9 games this season, 6 times he's had over 6 targets. So pretty much 2 out of every 3 games, he's having over 6 targets a game. And while that might not mean much with Jacoby Brissett, because he is not getting touchdowns, I mean, he hasn't had a single touchdown in the season, that does mean he's getting receptions. And like we say, targets are an earned statistic. You don't get targets by being a bad wide receiver. You need to be a good wide receiver to get targets. So Donovan Peoples-Jones is consistently getting good target volume with a bad quarterback and a run-first offense. Once they get Deshaun Watson back, who knows what's going to happen with Donovan Peoples-Jones and his production profile. And on Week 16 and 17, he also plays very, very easy opponents. I mean, nobody's writing home about the Saints defense. This is a team that is prone to getting into shootouts. And then the Commanders, yet another team prone to getting into shootouts. The next guy I want to talk about is one of the spottiest players so far this 2022 NFL season. It's Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, I think, is a really, really interesting player for the next couple weeks because, well, yes, he may drop you 4 points. He may drop you 2 points. He can also drop you 30 points. He can also drop you 40 points. I mean, we see him get 98-yard receptions up the wazoo, but there are also games where he ends with 33 yards. He hasn't proven he can be that wide receiver 2 in this offense, but when he's on, there is no wide receiver like him. I mean, at the end of the day, you can have this guy in your flex spot and not know what to expect, but in the championship where you kind of need some volatility, it's an individual week, Gabe Davis can provide you that volatility that will help you out to win your fantasy championships. They also play the Bears week 16, and we've seen the Bears get into some ridiculous shootouts over the past 3 weeks. Now that Justin Fields has ascended, and the Cincinnati Bengals, who we know are no slouches, especially once Jamar Chase comes back. They're going to have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. I mean, come on. This game is going to be a shootout one way or another. I don't see any way this game hits their under. I mean, it's possible, but I see this to be a very high-scoring affair. And Gabe Davis is going to be reaping the benefits of that. Yes, he may have a dud game. Yes, he may screw you over. I'm just warning you now. But at the same time, that volatility is important to fantasy managers, to winning your fantasy leagues. I think Gabe Davis has that in droves, and also he has the best quarterback in the entire league. Also, he has the best fantasy quarterback in the entire league in Josh Allen. So I'm not worried about him getting the volume. I mean, I know the targets will be there almost for a fact, but I'm just worried that him and Josh Allen may not be able to connect. But if they do, if they start connecting like they did towards the end of last season and through a couple games this season, I think Gabe Davis is an absolute league winner. So the next player I want to talk about, pains me to say it as a Giants fan, but this is Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney, we see get 17 fantasy points in his first ever full game with the Chiefs. I mean, yeah, you could consider last game his first game, but he only played 9% of snaps. I mean, they were really just trying to get him integrated, and even then he still had 2 receptions on 2 targets for 12 yards, but now he finally gets involved. 4 receptions for 57 yards, which is a good yards per catch in the NFL, and a touchdown, his first ever NFL touchdown. I mean, we see him go from arguably one of the least efficient fantasy football offenses in the entire NFL to probably the most efficient fantasy football offense, aside from maybe the Bills. So Kadarius Toney, there's really no telling what his potential can be. It did come out that he was actually not playing hurt against the Giants, so you really don't have to worry about him playing as an injury-prone type of tag. And I think Kadarius Toney is an absolute league winner among all league winners. One of the most valuable players, I would say, right now, because of the unknown. I mean, his rookie year, we saw one game where he absolutely exploded, 189 yards with Mike Glennon at quarterback against a tough Cowboys defense. Now we're going to be able to see what he's truly made out of for fantasy purposes with a more viable offense. And clearly the Chiefs did at least want him a little bit. If they go out and trade a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick to go out and get him, I think he'll at least be a decent addition. And now we see Juju ruled out for this week, which is a pretty big sign for Kadarius Toney, because it means they have to get him even more integrated into the offense, because at this point they almost need him. He does play Seattle week 16, which actually surprisingly might be a good game. It was going to look like a shootout at the beginning of the year. My one problem is they play the Denver Broncos in week 17, your championship week, which is a little scary because the Broncos defense looks so good. But if anyone's going to take down a great defense, it's Patrick Mahomes. I'm not too worried about that. But let's move on to our last player here, another young guy who could help you win a fantasy championship. The last guy I got is Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks, 22 years old. He is a rookie drafted in the 1st round of the NFL draft this year. And for most of the season, we saw him kind of dud. Because of an injury, he wasn't really getting much play time. And even when he wasn't really connecting all that great with Ryan Tannehill. Now we finally see him start to bolster up a connection, getting 8 targets for 7 receptions and 111 yards. Well, yes, there will be some dud games because of the way this Titans offense is ran. Obviously, it's primarily a run-first offense. Having Ryan Tannehill back at quarterback versus having someone like Malik Willis, who's going to throw the ball at max 15 times a game, is great for Treylon Burks. And, well, I don't think he'll be all that great every single game. Again, it's the unknown potential of the rookies that we're really chasing here, where if Treylon Burks has a breakout for the second half of the season, he could win you your league single-handedly. I mean, they drafted him to fill the A.J. Brown type role, and we know how good A.J. Brown was on the Titans, and now he looks even better on the Eagles. But if Treylon Burks is anything of what A.J. Brown is, this is a winning player for a winning roster, for a winning team. Before I call the video, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. I'm going to be doing a full video for this, a full thank you and everything. But thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. I mean, it really means so much to me. It's my proudest moment in a long time. Love you guys all so much. I really hope you guys do enjoy my content. I love making this stuff for you guys. I want you guys all to win your fantasy championships with my help and the help of all these other great fantasy football YouTubers. But I really do want what's best for all you guys. Please comment down below if there's anything you would love to see from me, anything for my 100 subscriber special. I've been really thinking about it, and I do have some ideas, but I really want to know what you guys think about it. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it from me. As always, guys, have a good day, good night, and a good life.